us, and that's where some of the bare root stuff comes in. Luckily, we have native trees, so basically all they do is take a twig, they cut it, they put it into a solution to sprout roots, and that's where you get the bare root tree. You can see it pretty much looks like a twig. It's a branch off of an existing tree, and there's your root system. Good news is we don't need big massive holes, and we're not moving 100-pound trees.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, right?
Whole bottle of Tylenol for everyone when we leave.
Yeah. So the trick is that when it comes to trees like this, or any tree, we need to find the top root that's as deep as you want this to be on the ground. One of the major reasons why some trees don't make it is that they're very deep. It can suffocate out the trunk, it'll start to rot it away. A lot of times this is why you get stress in trees when you start seeing sprouts coming up from around it and underneath the trunk. It's due to a stress. Sometimes because it's too low, sometimes it's just because when they were planted, type of year, it was too wet, it was a drought. I mean, all those things could be a possibility of why a tree was stressed to sprout. So we want to eliminate one of those stresses by making sure that we bury it at the right height. Some of the trees are different. You're going to be able to see clearly in a lot of these what is the top root and what comes off, and it's going to be clear as day. Maggie's been showed this, so if you ever had questions about it, and then I'll be with the Ketstein group and we can get these cleared out to make sure that we find it here. I don't know if people can see, but you can see this collar. It's a little bit thicker right here than everything else. That's where my top roots are. So I have clippers here. First thing I'm going to do is clip off all the unnecessary all the unnecessary roots that are on top of that top root. Those are basically called feeder roots. They're just there to help absorb some of the fertilizer and some of the root starter that was in the solution for it to sprout roots. Alright, so we kind of skipped steps for you guys to get started here, but step one in today's tree planting is we find the flag, we find out what species it is, we confirm it on the map, we take that tree and we put it in a bucket of water. With bare root trees, you need to stimulate the roots to get them wet before we put them in the ground. So as we're digging the hole, the tree goes into the bucket and soaks up some water. You dig your hole, you spend a couple minutes there, just enough to get the roots some moisture to them and get them sprouted to really push out the buds once they get in the ground. Now that we have our hole dug, I pull my tree out. I'm going to check the height of my hole. We're a little deep here, and a lot of times I have people take their shovel. You can lay it across the hole. You can see where the ground level is hitting. Right now would be the bottom side of this. So we're still about an inch, about 2 inches too deep in that hole. So I need to take a little bit of dirt. I'm going to put it back in the hole. I like to break up big clumps, give it a nice bed to sit on. Again, I can put this in the front there. See, now I'm sitting better on the height as far as the ground level with the shovel. So I'm going to remove the shovel. I'm going to start backfilling around roots. As I'm doing this, again, I'm breaking up any of the bigger clumps, trying to give it a nice hole to sit in. That way, if we can break up the big clumps, it settles better too. As I'm doing this, I'm checking my roots. I'm making sure that they're out. I want to check to make sure, like, if any of these roots are wrapped around the trunk, you know, if they're growing something like this, I want to make sure I clip that off. If you've ever heard of root girdling, that's an issue too with trees, and we want to make sure we correct that when they're young. If the roots are girdled in here, they're going to eventually grow large enough that they're going to suffocate out the tree, and then we're going to have issues. And a lot of times when you see trees that have like one branch that's dead, 2 branches that are dead, and then all of a sudden you notice that half of it is starting to die out. Sometimes that's this girdling root that's growing around the base of it, and it's just choking out that side. So we want to make sure we correct any of those issues as we go. I'm going to pull all those out. I'm going to fill a little bit more. once I get it nice and filled in around it, I'm going to kind of tamp down the soil so that the tree has a good firm base. I'm going to check to make sure that the trunk is straight. I want to make sure that this thing has a good start and that we're growing straight upright. Once I have that in, I'm going to use my pile of mulch and I'm going to create a mulch ring around them. You won't see it very well in this bed because a lot of it's mulch, but the trick is to not get the mulch against the base of the tree. If we have a bunch of mulch that's built up around the base, sitting up against the trunk, the mulch is here to help keep moisture in, which means once it has the moisture in, it's against the base of the tree, base of the trunk. So as we're going around, we're making our mulch ring. I have rakes too, I just did not come prepared to this tree, so you guys will have rakes to rake this around. We almost want to create a donut shape, so that way we can have a area next to the tree to hold water in. So now that we have a circle around it, level it out, I'm going to pull away some of the excess mulch, so again, to make sure that we're not sitting up against the base of the tree. And one of my final steps that I do is I overlook the tree again. Is it straight? Are there any broken branches? The clippers are again to clip off any roots that we have any issues with. Are there any broken branches on the top of it that I need to clip off and correct? I'm checking for any tags. Some of the trees did have tags to label what the variety of them were. And then the bucket of water that we initially started with to water to the roots is going to go in the tree. And you can see that donut shape helped create a nice hole to hold that water in, so it has a chance to settle right there by the tree.
You can see how dry it is by how much water being absorbed out there. So
Yes.
a third of an inch of rain last night helped to get some moisture to the top inch or so when we came in dry conditions out there. So I can't recall having to water our soccer field as often as we are for the month of April, but Mother Nature really hasn't kicked in yet.